Hello traders, this is Alex with the Matrix program. We're going to do a deep dive on SLV. I've never traded it. I was a silver guy. I'm a futures ex-broker. And I've never traded SLV. I always traded the futures. You know, of course, margins weren't 60 grand. But anyway, SLV is a good way. It's a big implement. I learned a lot doing this dive. I did a kind of AI informational part, which will be part one. And then there'll be a part two, which is over the master chart square 9 calculator. Again, a deep dive into all the swings since the creation and the birth of the contract. Typical thing what I do, right, when I go through a market that I haven't traded before. And then I'll do the chart process on the what I call the master chart, right? It's just using the moons for time and the square 9 for price. And we'll review that as well in a section. So there's kind of like 3 parts to it. Now, there'll be a comprehensive one as well, but I thought I'd give you an informational part if you catch one of these in between so you kind of understand. Anyway, enjoy. Hope you're successful in your trading.
Okay, hello traders. This is another part of the series. We're going to look at the what I call TNP, time and price, that GANN used to project on his 50% levels. Kind of cryptic, right, which he normally is in his writings. So I'm just going to give you a quick little summary. First, again, this is the SLV chart, right? Highs, lows, current little bottom, our recent. Today is August 23rd on a Sunday, 2026. So it's been a nice little recovery off the lows. Of course, I've been working on this SLV project from around in here, of course. First thing we want to do is just draw a simple trend line. Let's get rid of the stuff we don't need. Bar count, don't need that. Okay, so we are going to project down to 50 percentile. Just a simple thing. Now, again, this was our first pointer. And again, going down, this one right here. Let me mark a pointer. That one right there. Let me see if I can spread it out. Right there that we're on. See, so again, the market tells you where you're going. It points to the direction. Of course, everything has a change of speed. So here's 50 percentile. And obviously, we've taken that square of that range, right? We're looking at squares of the range. Obviously, it took it out in time, not in price. So in theory, you go on to the next square, right? And so on until it's taken out. And you just keep going out into the future. Let me just draw these in. I normally don't do it this way, but it kind of gives you the idea of what we're doing, right? Until the square is taken out, and we hit the bottom of that 50 percentile retracement down in here. So now let's get rid of these because that ain't what I really want to show you. But that's kind of the concept, right? When I do these trend lines. So and now we're gonna let's get rid of that one too. Okay, that was our first pointer, and then we move to the next pointer once it goes out of square, and this one went out of square in time. And it went out a square in time there. So you go on to the next pointer, which was this one up here. And you go down 50%. Right, so if you'd had orders in, right, let's say you picked it up here, or you sold it up here in the secondary event on this bear trap area, the 50% you'd have been filled, more than likely. So that, because it hit that price and just went beyond by a little bit. This was around 55.06. Anyway, it was right in the hunt. So the square was complete, and this squaring of time, let me get it more exact here. I never try to be too exact, except for when it comes to the math part of it. And so it missed the timing, right, is what this was our pointers. It matched these two up, actually 4 highs, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we squared it out here, missed this high by a little bit on the time. Right, because this is projecting time and price. The time was a high, the price was ahead of time. Makes sense, right? Which happens. Sometimes time is ahead of price. Everything mathematically can be turned identically, right? So, all right, so that now we've confirmed that, and you could keep going. Obviously, we know that the tendency is we break at least 65 to 85% post bull. So we're going down now. We're out of price and time, and so I'm going to go to this high because it's obvious, right, that this is the time we need to look at least start looking at it to get the time in the correct window. And we're going to go down to 66%. 66%, that's 2/3, right? Now you could use a Fibonacci number. That's fine too, as long as you keep it the same. 65 is kind of my number, so we're going to stop there. And we'll just assume some things. So again, the pointer is this one. This is the target area. So now that is down and dirty. That's just under 40 bucks. Logically, kind of makes a little sense. We did a lot of business at $40. Did not so much business up here because this was too fast. Margins were too high. So you look at this date, write this date down, October 9th. Give or take 3 days on either side of it, right? Because again, we're dealing with something that's not perfect. So that could be a high, could be a low, could be a drainer. Now you want to go draw your square in. Once you have, again, this is current, right, as of my time. And you kind of look. We missed this high on this. This is 1/8, 1/4, 1/2, 3/4, 7/8, which I don't use too much. But this is the 1/8, missed it by 1 day. This picked this pretty, oh, that was a high, duh. This one was no man's land. This one was the gap down in acceleration. This one was kind of breaking above the trend line. So all those kind of gel pretty good. And now we're going to duplicate this trend line and take a look at how it did. Right, I'm just lining it up like with this high. It missed that one by a little bit, kind of missed this one, kind of hit this one. So not terrible. And you go to the lows and see how it did. We'd hit this high, hit this, or excuse me, low, hit this low in this gap. So it really looks pretty good. Let's delete this one now. Let's look at a different speed. Let's go to a 2x1. Just kind of gander. Nothing, no parallel. Off the high, nothing. Kind of, maybe. Now let's go, let's slow it down. 2x1 speed. Well, we're on that one, and there's secondary event. Kind of hit that one. Kind of missed that one. Kind of hit this parallel. So far it looks pretty good. So that, again, I'm proving accuracy, right? That's what I'm trying to do, is prove accuracy. All right, now we can also go up. And again, this is your cardinal cross, your 1-to-1 mix. Nope. Yeah, kind of parallel, kind of parallel. And that one hit right on. So this parallel is working on both sides of this range, right? And I guess we can leave it in. We'll draw another one in, so you kind of, that's your parallel based off of the 1x2, or excuse me, the 1x1 speed, right? So we like that zone. Now let's do some possibility work on the bull side. Let me get rid of all this crap. Hang on. Okay, I got it cleared out. Now, again, it's a nice thing about, even though I was trying to get this thing out because it looked like a bottom to me and everything was, the solar eclipse that I traded was in the zone right here. So I kind of wanted to get a video out on, again, for my own personal benefit, but as well as others that might not trade it, is the SLV, right? So nice thing about, though, being a little late to the party is now we got a true construction. The market is pointing you in a direction. And to prove that, of course, you can go from low to high and see how it's running. Oops. Pretty damn accurate. Now you could take the high, dang it, the high bar to the low bar. Again, kind of an average, which again is what you do. Sure looks pretty accurate to me, and we know that this speed is also part of the other one going down, right? So we're pretty comfortable with that. We're kind of replicating this pattern, right? So now what I'm going to do, if I can get it to cooperate, we're going to draw this speed line, which is 46%, by the way. And then obviously we're getting close to the 50 mark. So interestingly enough, that's what we kind of want to do. We're going to go to, let me just do another line and change the color so we can get a drift here. So that's the one that we're kind of basing it off of. So we know that, obviously it went out of the 25%, which is usually what I don't start with, but we got to start somewhere. So we're going to go to this as our pivot or a dot at the barrel of our gun, the pointer, right? This low right here, and then go up to 50%. Now, obviously, when you're looking at it not so into the current, right, and you're in the past, you'll probably go up 100%. Usually I go 50% down, 100% up. So, and you can do that even now, right, and get the dates. November 11th is our date where we have time and price met. The TNP, GAN says 50% is your most important level, not retracement, but as a time and price calculation. This is the speed line. Now, if we want to double check that, you drag it around and it hit this low, hit this high. We're on it currently, maybe through it. Then go back here. It kind of hit it, not quite. Let me go up to the next one. Paralleled this one pretty good, missed it by a few ticks. And you can see what I do, right? I'm using the trend lines as confirmation that this is some type of accurate. Now, of course, again, we're squaring of the range. If you want to draw your square of the range in, you can. Here's your eighth quarter, which kind of was in between stuff. And the 50 percentile is your next resistance or time zone, September 15th. So you can write that one down. 3/4 is October 14th. 7/8, which I don't use much, is October 28th. Okay, we know all that now. You can write that down. Now one thing we have to understand is the all-time high, right? Makes sense. Only logical. This is January 29th, right? So, dang it, hang on. Delete. I gotta get it down so I can go out a year. All right, here's January 29th. Here's January 29th. That's an annual, right? What GAN called an annual. This is a 1-year anniversary date, right, from this high to this zone. Now you want to double check that. Again, now we're kind of looking on the positive side, not just negative. Again, it's all about possibilities, right? And knowing what you don't know in preparation. Okay, so now we've got this trend line. You kind of double check everything. Kind of a similar to the other one in speed, so we know that one's fairly accurate. Now also you can go down, and there's your 2x1. There's your 1x1. This is your cardinal cross. This is your time frame, and this time frame was the right shoulder low. So I like all that. It's positive for sure. Now the resistance is this 3/4, and that's kind of the resistance. And I would assume it probably take out this high by a little bit. This is 64.69. Yep. So I would assume it'd pop that out a little bit, run a few stops. Maybe by Monday. Again, today's Sunday. It might be tomorrow that we pop the stops. And then if it has a bad close, I'll be a little concerned. But if we can hold gains, that'll be pretty friendly. So that is your projection based on what we know right now. This is squaring out a negative range, so the projections are all pointing lower, right? This is halfway. You kind of look for spots along the way to sell this thing if the trend is truly down. Okay, here's your silver chart, which is the main emphasis of everything. Again, we'll kind of do the same scenario. I might go blow through it a little quicker, trying to keep this video short. Trying to keep it short. Went down about the same percentage. This is the pointer. You got to go down 65%. Okay, that's the pointer at the barrel of the gun. This is the target price. So if you're wanting to buy a dip, right, this is where it'd be, 42 bucks. That's 65 percentile. Now again, it usually breaks between 65 and 85 to complete the bear mission. Again, you got to reload the gun, get everybody thinking it'll never go up, right? Well, it's too easy about it in my opinion, but we'll see. But so that's your pointer, kind of a similar deal. You can replicate this across the board, and you can kind of hit that high, hit the main low. That's pretty cool. This one was kind of hit this high, hit this low, kind of a parallel. And it looks like it kind of paralleled on the way down. So that looks pretty accurate, similar to the SLV. Now we'll just assume that's it for that one. Now let's do the up mentality. We'll go this one to this one. That's 46%. And we're going to replicate that right there. Now that's an exact target. That would be September 7th, probably Labor Day, I believe. So that'll be interesting on its own merits. But now let's drop her down to 50%. There's 50%. Kind of on the barrel of the gun. Here's your pointer. Kind of off a little, but close enough. November 13th is that time zone, and this is the pointer that we're using, right? So again, you can see that now. Again, if you go out to 100%, which is normally what I would do, you can see where it stretches it to. Trying to get you the time zone in here, so you have it in your books. Looks like about March 15th-ish, 12th-ish of 2027. So that is the target. This is the target to the downside. This is the longer-term target to the upside. Now, of course, you want to prove that out. You start drawing around and see if there's anything that matches up. I do not see a whole lot there. A little bit one there. Missed that one. I did hit this high up here, that one and that one. So kind of, sort of, but not as powerful as the other one. And of course, if this target is reached, you know, that'll be your channel that it could retrace up on, right? Now, again, this is all possibilities. We have no clue. You don't take any of this with a grain of salt. But if you're an option guy like myself, you know what options to buy. You can take all these that we just discussed and apply them as an option trade. At least you know what month to buy, right? So that's kind of all my theory wrapped up into one segment. Now you go back in time. Let's spread this out back to the computer zone, and you can do the same work on silver. Here's your pointer. That makes sense. We'll go down 50%. Okay, there's your pointer. There's 50%. This is time and price, TNP, right here. So it worked real well in time, not so much in price. So that told us that be careful this back rally. And it was just a back rally. Good one, though, by golly. It wasn't small. And so then you kept going down, right? You go out to this pointer, more than likely, right here, right to where the cross is. And you go down to 65%. And we broke the square in time and price. So you go to the next pointer, which is this one right here, right? And you go down to 75%. There's close enough. Well, I'm off a little bit. Normally I'm not this precise because I don't ever trade that close, but you can see this is the target zone. So your square of time, and I'm going to go all the way out since, and I'm going to use the 50%. You know, basically one square. This is two squares, right? So time and price still missed it, but we finally hit the time, or excuse me, the price right here on 2020, which again loaded the gun, cleansed the system out, and was prepping then for the bull to come in 2021 too. So that's time and price, and again you can see that the square finally really even didn't get broken there, so you could keep running the square out into the future. But that's how this works, right? That's a time and price projection, and all these zones then are pretty critical. Not so much to pick and trade, but to know where to put stops and levels of support and resistance. I'm going to sign off. Thanks again, and if you enjoy this stuff, give me a thumbs up. I do appreciate it. Ciao.